Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of An Earth with your host Katya Nalivaja. Today we're joined by my friend Tamanda and we're going to be talking about fighting for friendships in our day and age. So do stay tuned, but before then, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. Let's get into it.
This is the gender expert, all things gender development, all things actress. She's an actual trained actress. She went to SCAD. Please search SCAD. Please search her name. You'll see her on the internet with actual Hollywood people.
We
And
don't
she's
need
a
to be doing
Malawian.
that.
And she's a Malawian, you guys. Traveled the world, America, Kenya, Philippines. Where has she not been? Miss Kate Ware. Gotta wear, but
People might say it like that, actually.
yeah, they really will. But all right, okay. So actually, today's episode was inspired by Tamanda's post because she was on WhatsApp and she did a little rant, and I was like, okay, welcome to the podcast. And so her rant was, it wasn't a rant, it was a really beautiful piece on friendship. So I'm going to read a little bit of what you said, but you were talking about friendship and you talked about how I'm going to read your posts. You said that friendship, as Jesus intended, wasn't casual but covenantal. Yeah? Covenant. Intentional. Blood covenant? No. Okay.
No, oh my gosh.
Right. So what?
Wow.
Okay. Anyway, but when I read it, it was so real because you started off by mentioning how you are the type of person who you're friends with someone until death do us part. You get married in a friendship, basically. I, on the other hand, I'm just like, it is what it is. Bye. It was a good time knowing you. I don't feel
Okay.
like you knew me. So bye. So first of all, I actually want to talk about that. Why do you cling on to friendships like that?
Okay. Mm, I think the beginning of that has to do with family, right? So friends are your chosen family. And I think the same way that I value my family is the same way that I carry out with my friends. So if you love your family, you obviously want to have a group of people who kind of give you that same support system. And that's just
Yeah.
literally the basis of why I cling on to that we're friends till we die type of thing. Because if my family, did I just, yeah, no, if I cling on to my family and like I love them, I value them, all these things, those are the people who are given to me, from genetics. But you get to choose the people who you get to have as friends. And I think there's something about that I don't take very lightly.
Okay. Is that something you've always known as like since childhood? Because you and I were friends since we were kids.
Hmm.
So is that something that you've just always grown up with? Is that something you realized when you got older? Like yeah.
Where did it come from? I honestly don't know where it came from. I really don't know. I think maybe because, like, just maybe outside of people who know me, I come off extroverted, right? But the real me is introverted. I'm always watching and like listening. And I think just in paying attention to people, I find
Yeah.
myself relating to like what they go through, or like a situation where it's like, oh, they also have that, because like oftentimes you obviously experience life from your lens, but when you're with people and you hear something similar, there's something about that draws you to that person, and you're like, what is that? Like, why am I all of a sudden feeling this sort of, I'm seen, I'm heard with this person? And so that sort of also drives that choosing of being with people like that.
Okay. That's interesting. So my thing is, I I think I'm going to ask this question because I think I can show up for people and I can be friends with people. But the reason why it's easy for me to let go of friendships is because I until now, it's a recent development. I've never
Mm,
known how to allow other people to be my friend. So
mm,
I can be your friend for life, but I can let go of you because I don't feel like there's a certain part of me that I like block. So the moment any feathers get ruffled, I'm like, okay, you don't know me. You do, you think you do, but you don't. And I feel alone. And I feel like you're not my friend, or I haven't allowed you to be my friend. So that's what allows me to kind of just say, well, it was a good time. I love you, but
mm.
I can love you from a distance. So how do you is it the same with you? Do you allow people to fully be your friend? Is that why it's you stay in friendships, or is it like what is it for you?
Okay, because it's sort of maybe intentional would be the word, because
Okay.
I don't necessarily think that, okay, if I'll give an example. If someone was to tell me, I don't want to be your friend anymore, I wouldn't be like, okay, bye. I'd be like, no, what happened? Like, first and foremost, where is this coming from? So that I can understand, like, if it's something that I'm doing, I can easily change. If it's maybe a misunderstanding, we can work through it. So I never think that whatever conflict or like issue we're going through will end our friendship, unless you say, okay, I'm done, I don't want to put effort. Then I have no right to like be like, no, stay, what are you doing? Then I have to let you go. But if
Yeah.
it's something where when we're talking and you're like, no, it's this thing that you did and I don't know, I felt like this, then I have to be like, okay, let me take that in. But it has to come from that openness of having that conversation, right? And that's sort of what, like, the friends that I've had are literally the friends I've had since I was 2, 3, 4, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So we've never like, you know them. So like we're basically family now, and it's because we had that, no, you're in my life, like mutually, not just me saying you're in my life and then the other person saying, yeah, no, you know.
Okay. So now
Mm,
your post, you did mention something. We're gonna get to why you actually posted that and like the story around that. But before that, because I'm hearing that a lot of your friendships and maybe the reason why you have um clung on to them is because you've been friends for like ever since you were kids. Now I'm looking at
mm,
my life, and when I was a kid, I was in the UK, and then I moved schools as if like, I don't know, like it was just, I was
mhm,
just moving every day. So you in your post you did mention how it is like life has made it harder to make those kind of friendships because we're constantly moving or there's a new job or something like that. Now, what other challenges do you feel like, or no, let me phrase it like this. Do you think that the fact that you stayed in one place with these people did make
mhm.
it easy for you to develop that friendship? Because I mean, you were kids, I mean, at that time you all didn't really have insecurities like that. So do you think that that
Right.
was a factor as to why you've held on to friendships like that?
To some extent, I would say yes, but not really. Because, like, my oldest friendship is with Grace, and we weren't always
Shout
in
out
the
to you,
same.
Grace.
Yeah, yeah, it was, we weren't always in the same place, but we are still together. I think maybe the childhood under like the playing that getting to know each other phase did add on to it, but I think what mattered was what we did after, when we left. Because when, even though I wasn't in the same school as her, she would always call, video call, text. Like there was always this effort of, how are you? And so I guess when you receive that, you kind of know, oh, it's safe here. Like I don't have to like figure out, like it's not awkward to reach out to her because I know where I stand, you know, like it's already established that I'm important to her. So
Mm.
regardless of where I am, even if it's like the smallest thing, I know if I update her, it wouldn't be like, whoa, where is this coming from? It's part of our relationship, like the routine of our conversations are, it's already established. So I wouldn't say that the moving affects it. It does in some ways, because if you are the type of person who says, I really don't agree with this saying, friends of a season. I've never believed in that. Like, even though people say it, and I understand that, like, sometimes you have people who come in your life and help you at specific moments, right? But I believe those people aren't friends. Those are just like acquaintances who play a role at that point in your life,
Mhm.
right? Because for me, at least, friends are, like I said, family, like the chosen family that you get to pick for yourself. And so if you carry those people with that regard, it kind of changes how you interact with each other and what becomes important between the two of you.
Okay. So what you would say is first and foremost that definition of what a friend is important.
Mm.
Because I think a lot of people these days, well, including myself, for a long time, everyone was my friend. If I talked to you, if we smiled, if we shared a meal, you're my friend instantly. So what I'm hearing from you is, yeah, you've mentioned that a friend is a choice that you make, and also the other person makes. So what you're saying is you've been smart ever since you were one.
Not necessarily. I don't know. I don't know about that.
You've been better than the rest of.
I don't know about that. I just think that what is it? There's this author who he like defined, okay, I wrote it down, I think. Let me find. He said that friendship is a relationship where there is nothing in it for you other than the relationship.
Hmm.
You know? So meaning, like, oh, obviously, like, certain friends are transactional, whatever, but that shouldn't be the basis of the friendship. That's what makes it flaky. Because if I'm your friend and every time I'm your friend, it's like, yo, Karia, struggling financially, girl, can you help me out? And then you do the same thing, and then we become financial friends. Like, that's all we ever become for each other. And then when it becomes like a
Mhm.
serious thing of like, oh my gosh, I'm suffering like mentally, or like something happened in my family. Now to reach out to you, it becomes difficult because we've established we're financial friends, you know? So yeah, defining what that friendship is. I mean, sometimes it feels weird to be like, what kind of friend are we? But that's not necessarily what you should be saying, because that was a little weird. But I think it's important to ask someone what they need, what they need in life, you know, like, just to get to know what what uh what it is about this friendship that matters the most. Cause like I'll give an example with Grace. There's certain times where I'm just like, girl, can you tell me why is it like you're so like still in my life or whatever? Because sometimes I don't know if I'm being a good friend, you know? So I always like just check in and be like, oh, have I at once at any point, didn't, or like I wasn't there for you or whatever it is. And then she'll tell me honestly to be like, oh no, like this or that or this or that. And I think not being afraid to be like, hey, am I being good to you? Am I
Yeah.
is it takes a lot of courage, but it does help because then oh, they just want me to be there to listen, because sometimes you come out and you're like, let me give advice. And it's like, no, that's not what they need.
Okay. Well, we've been talking and we really haven't got into the post that inspired this. So please do explain what inspired what inspired your post, because you in your post you're talking about friendships fading. You talked about how they're a covenant and a little bit about what you've just been explaining. So what really inspired that? Because it really did feel heartfelt. And I was just so excited. I didn't even take a screenshot of all of them. which is my bad. Sorry, guys. But this girl wrote an entire think piece. Low key could be a blog, high key could be a book. But do explain.
Making me blush.
Look,
So the entire conversation, it actually came from, so I have an acquaintance, right? And it- I just haven't spoken to them in a while, and they were posting a specific theme of loss of friendship. And I was like, oh, that this is like, it was a continuous thread of like 2 days. And I was like, this is not normal. I hope they're okay, and it took a lot of courage to kind of like reach out and ask them what was going on, because at first I was like, well, is it even my place to ask them what's going on? Because maybe they already have someone who's going to ask them what's going on, right? But I was like, okay, I've seen it too much. It's in my head. Let me just ask. So I asked them, and then they were like, oh, I lost a friend, right? And I thought, oh my gosh, what do you mean you lost a friend? But they meant not like to death, but a friend who doesn't want to be in their life anymore. And so I kind of felt for her in that regard, because I'm the type of person who, like, if my friend is like, I don't want to be here anymore, like, it hurts, and you don't want to, you know, react from your own um, perspective of the situation, even though that's where you're going to start from. But she
yeah.
started saying that her friend didn't want to be there. And it was a very difficult thing for her to kind of come to, because she's like me, friends till we die. And so she was still grappling with it, and didn't know how to process it. But then when she explained to me, one thing that I realized is a very important thing that we don't always do is telling someone, hey, I don't want to be your friend anymore. Like, as much as that phrasing of it is awful, like, it hurts to hear that. But I think it's such
Yeah.
an important thing to say, especially if you were close, because it means I love you enough to tell you, hey, I'm not going to ghost you, but like, I can't continue, and I think it's such an honest, beautiful thing that shows love, not in the way that we always expect to receive it, but it is, I think, an example of painful love.
Painful love. Lifted.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then you talked about how it is harder, as I've already touched, to make friends in this generation. So what you did mention reasons, but could you like reiterate them and then also just explain why you think personally it's harder for people to be friends till they die?
Right. So I think we're in a state of transience and like mobility, meaning, like we said before, like moving a lot, changing jobs, all of this thing is like all of that is happening so often now. People moving cities. And I think if we look at it from modernization, it looks like, oh, these are all great things. As a person, you are making progress for yourself. It's wonderful. We should be celebrating that. But then the community that you're leaving behind, I think, is often a thing that we forget, because the assumption is, oh, they're celebrating me, I'm moving, and it's great. Bye, guys. See you later. Right? I feel like the see you later doesn't have to be so permanent. Like, there's efforts that people can make online, right? But then I think even that has its own issues sometimes, because we get so comfortable with being online, like COVID really pushed us to be very tech heavy. So we're so used to communicating online. Like, I'm more comfortable talking to people on the phone than in person. that like
Same.
when we got back in person, it was so hard to make eye contact with people. It was like, hey, yeah, good. And the person is right here. It was so awkward. But I think because we're social beings, when we lose that, it not only affects us socially, but also mentally. And sometimes we
Yeah.
find ourselves in a slump and we think, oh, it's because of work or it's because of my brain drain. But sometimes it's because you lost that community that kept you together. It's that thing of like, we take for granted what we have. So,
Hmm.
you know,
So, as a person who has moved a lot, as I've mentioned, she's been traveling the world, guys. How and moving, we are in a digital era. I think on top of yes, it not being the best thing for communities, sometimes it is a necessity,
mm,
unfortunately, but also fortunately. So how have you navigated being intentional in your friendships? How have you navigated remaining and keeping real, deep, authentic relationships with people, even though you're like traveling? And guys, she's really not traveling the world like that. She's going for school. It's really not. It's not that
yeah, it's all
serious.
for education.
But yeah, and like, what do you think could be like, how can people navigate that? Because also, when you are moving, you're moving to different cultures, different places. The speed of life is different. For example, from Malawi to the US, in your case, or the
Mm.
UK, life moves fast. There's the time differences. How do you navigate that? Especially, we're gonna use Grace, we love you. We're gonna use that friendship. Both of you are in different cities at different times, different time zones. So how do you navigate that?
You know, I think it's the small little check-ins, to be completely honest. So I think one of the things that have really helped with our friendship, me and Grace, have been like I'll be cooking and she'll be on the call. She'll be cooking, she'll be on the call, she'll be walking to work. Like little moments where there are gaps to check in or like have conversation. And if it's not that, then it's voice notes, so that there's a sense of active communication rather than texting. I think
Mm.
we voice note more and like video call more than we text. And if we do text, it's because like maybe we don't have a space to send a voice note. But I think making sure that the other person is really kind of having this presence of you, even if it's just your voice or just a video of you, because that still keeps you connected because your eyes
Yeah.
and your face are how I know like you exist, like you're a being on the other end and I can connect with you with whatever you're saying from your body language or whatever it is. So I think though we didn't do that intentionally, but I do see how that has been playing for us because that's been most of what we've done. And then when she comes and
Mhm.
we're in the same place, we always say, "Hey, I'm going home like this day." And then she'll be like, "I'll be coming this day." And then I'll be like, "Okay, we should meet up." And we do actually keep those promises of like, we should meet up. It's not we should meet up. Oh, sorry, something came up. It's always we should meet up, and we do, even if it's like 5 seconds or like 2 seconds. Like literally, we try to put an effort of keeping that open because like even the friends
Yeah.
that because I've also lost friends to be honest. The ones that I haven't been, maybe it's because they've been busy, I've been busy, it's been difficult. I'll still check in, they'll check in, but there's this text thread that goes like this, like it's not in sync. So it kind of makes it harder in
Mm.
in those friendships, but the intention is still there.
Two things from there is, first of all, no, we're going to talk about the individualism. Because yes, coming from Malawi, coming from that side, even as a gender expert, there's something that you're constantly talking about, which is community, how we are community based. But when you do come to the West, and the
Mhm.
Western culture, it is more individualized. You do have family, but when you're 18, you're kind of like, bye everyone, I'm an adult, I'm an individual. How do you think that
Mm.
has also played a role in the decline of friendships, and not just friendships, but those really deep-seated covenantal friendships that you brought up in your post and just in like what you're talking about?
Mm. I think when we talk about individualism, right? Because there is it as a culture, and then I think it as a perspective, right? So the culture is um my independency, my dreams, my job, my work, right? That's as the culture. As an individual, it's your intentionality of what you're allowing to come into your space, into your life, whether that's your friends, your workout routine, whatever it is. In the collectivistic culture, it's we are a community. There is this accountability of I have to show up regardless of what's going on in my life because they need me. There's a sort of selflessness that has to come. You're always sacrificing something for the other person because it's not about you, it's about the community you're coming from, or the community you're tending to. So there is nothing wrong with either one. All of them offer something great and beautiful, but I think there is something that we need to intentionally try to bring together, the good parts of one side and the
Mm.
other to bring together to have this holistic um like approach to friendship, right? Because from the individualistic, you have this I'm choosing you to be my friend, Katia, because I like you, you're a good person, and I want to be your friend. That comes from there. The collectivistic culture is more, yeah, so because we've known each other from decades of our ancestors, I have a right to be here with you because you have known my family and we're a community or whatever, right? But I think they have to kind of work together because
Mm.
if you're more collectivistic, there's sort of a suffering of self that comes from that. Like for example, you know how in our culture, if something happens, like a baby is born or something, we show up even if we don't know who they are. We just go, like even though,
Yeah.
like even though we don't know, that's still beautiful in itself because it means like when the baby is born, we're celebrating that. Nobody does that in the West unless you know the baby, right? it
Mm.
puts it puts into perspective the beauty of being there for people who you might not know need that. But then it also takes away
Mm.
from the intentionality of you saying, oh no, but I chose also to be here. So I think that's sort of
Yeah.
the complexity of what we have to deal with friendships, of like I'm choosing you, but also I have every right to support you because you're my community. I'm choosing both.
Mm.
That's hard to navigate. Okay, now when you said
Yeah.
moving, right? In the US, I found it a little hard to do that because some people, yes, they were my friends. But then whenever it was like, oh, friends, we're a community, they would be busy. And I was like, wait a minute, where are you guys? It was so like hard to navigate that unless it was people who also came from a collectivistic culture, right? So if they came from Asia
Mm.
or if they came from also Africa, like a different country. So that was easier because we had that understanding of like, yeah, regardless, like I will make time for you because you're important. And then uh, from the individualistic side, you do sort of see yourself of like, oh, I'm also important here. I should also
Yeah.
take myself into this because my choices also matter outside of me going, you are important to me. So,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I see myself in what you're saying. So, because I am confused culturally, as someone said, I have I'm Malawian, but I have a lot of the Western culture in my veins. So I do see a lot of that individualism in my life. And I think even as you're
mm,
explaining your friendship with Grace and with other people, I heard a lot of sacrifice. I heard a lot of, you're serving the other person, and that is very beautiful. And as you've mentioned, that's what you get a lot from these community-centered contexts. But the beautiful thing of being in the individualist side is the boundaries. I think that's what community people forget or don't know how to do, is set boundaries. So I found in my own life kind of struggling between the two of, I'm in a context where everyone is supposed to be in your space and just exist there, but
Mm-hmm.
I boundaries. I want boundaries. So how do I navigate that? How do I navigate um first of all being an introvert, secondly being someone who really is intentional about things, um who I don't want a random person showing up at, I don't know, my child's thing. I'm really going to be like, hi, hello, what are you
Right.
doing?
Mm-hmm.
But also realizing that there's something beautiful in having people, strangers,
Mm-hmm.
celebrate you just because. So I think it's a conversation that now, especially that the world is opening up and we're having friendships across the world, like I don't know, a Malawian and an American or whatever, to have these kind of conversations because, as you said, it can easily look like this person doesn't like me, they don't want to be my friend. When in
Mm-hmm.
real sense, it's just culturally, you see the world differently, and there is something you can both learn from each other. Um, and yeah, because I used to think, am I just selfish? And maybe to some extent, yeah, but maybe also it's just that gap of no, you kind of just see the world differently. Um, and that conversation just had to be had, but you didn't even have the words or know what to say. Anyway, that was a lot.
You made it this far. Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Tamanda. Do stay tuned for part 2 because that's where we're going to spill the tea on toxic relationships and fighting for friendships. So don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to comment, don't forget to like, and I will see you next week. And as always, I am sending love and light.